Hey there, how you doing? Kelly O'Connell, author and attorney with Knockout Podcasts, and I've got a little story for you here today about these two kids that were driving across America, and they ended up in Utah or in Wyoming, and then something went wrong and only one of them returned, and they can't find the first, and it's Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. I'm sure that you've heard about it, and I thought I would do a little podcast on law since I'm an attorney and throw out what my opinion is, and you can give me your response. But in my opinion, just to sum it up, murder is the likeliest explanation of what happened. And the reason that I say that I will get into, but you know, the way that this has played out has frustrated a lot of people. Gabby is out there somewhere, or in my theory, her body's out there somewhere. And Brian Laundrie, her boyfriend, has not helped at all in the least to find the body. And he didn't even put out a missing person report, which tells me they had two people in one vehicle and he's gone. And he doesn't raise the red flag. Something weird is going on. So if you haven't seen this, look it up, Google it. There's a ton of stories out there. It's a pretty young blonde girl and her boyfriend, and they've been together, I think, since 2019. They were supposedly engaged, and so they were going to take a trip across the United States. And they had taken a van and converted it, and I believe the van belonged to Gabby, the female. So they started the trip on July the 2nd, and we're going to all these memorable places. Now, a few things to remember is, number one, they're not married. Number two, they were living together, but in Laundrie's parents' house, I believe, and she's from Long Island. I might get some of these details wrong, but that they had moved down together to live with his parents, and then her dad, who was very attached to her, had moved down to be close to her. As she's got on her arm "Let It Be" tattooed, and the father said that she was a complete free spirit and totally irrepressible. But both Brian and Gabby are described as having mental health issues that were addressed or unmedicated. So they start the trip July the 2nd, and they're going across the country, and they're documenting everything by video and pics and putting it on the internet. And then Gabby stops contacting her folks, and this is where it kind of gets interesting. Now, here's what's interesting. The parents of Gabby say that they stopped hearing from her in late August. And they're not sure, though, the authorities are not sure that the texts that she sent were even from her. So they had been in Moab, Utah, and the last place that she supposedly was at was in Wyoming. And so the parents in the family of Petito have gone to Wyoming to look for her. But was she there? That's a question. They had been in Moab, Utah, about 140 miles southeast of Provo, and the police were called. Some witnesses had claimed that there was a disagreement, an altercation, and they came. And so the police report says all three individuals gave me a similar and consistent story, consisting of the basic idea that the driver of the van, a male, had some sort of argument with a female, Gabby. The male tried to create distance by telling Gabby to take a walk to calm down. She didn't want to be separated from the male and began slapping him. He grabbed her face and pushed her back as she pressed upon him and the van. And the police said that the incident appeared to be more a mental and emotional break than a domestic incident. And the report goes on, no one reported that the male struck the female. Both the male and the female reported that they are in love and engaged to be married and desperately didn't wish to see anyone charged with a crime. There were no significant injuries reported, and both agree that Gabby suffers from serious anxiety. And so the police had made an agreement that one of them would sleep in the van and the other one would get in a hotel or a motel. And so one stayed with the Ford Transit van, and this is near the Arches National Park and was right by the Moonflower Co-op. And so the police had originally pulled over the van for going 45 and a 15 mile per hour. And now Gabby was crying uncontrollably and admitted to the police officer that she was struggling with her mental health. And so the Laundrie had claimed that she had tried to grab the wheel and caused him to swerve into the curb, and the officer said that was not consistent with Gabrielle's statement. So anyway, so you've got this event, and then they go up and they supposedly show up in the last place she's seen is in Wyoming. And so now she's gone. Now they got to Moab August the 12th. The incident happened, I believe, on August the 15th for the police. And so on August 24th, they checked into a hotel in Salt Lake City. August 25th, Petito called her family and told them she was in Grand Teton National Park. And then, all right, between August the 25th and September the 1st, Laundrie returned to the Northport home where the couple had lived previously, and I think that's his family. And then on September 11th, because Gabby is not there, the family files a missing person report. And in this report, connected with it, they made a statement. Every day the search for Gabby continues. This Schmidt and Petito family become more desperate. They are frantically searching for answers and information in their daughter's disappearance while Brian sits in the comfort of his home. Brian claims he wants to sit in the background while we search for Gabby in the wilderness of the Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. Brian left Gabby in the wilderness with grizzly bears and wolves while he sits in the comfort of his home. In his home. Brian, how could you do this to Gabby? You selfishly remain silent while Gabby is all alone in the wilderness. Brian, your silence is reprehensible. We beg you to do the right thing and help bring us back Gabby. Brian, whatever happened in Wyoming happened. The only thing you can control is what you do now. Tell us where Gabby is. You tarnish your love for her with your silence. And so it starts on July 2nd, ends sometime in the middle of or the end of August. So, all right, here's my theory. And this is why I think she's dead. First, were she alive, her boyfriend Brian Laundrie and her fiance supposedly would not have returned alone in her vehicle, leaving her exposed to the elements or without support. Second, if Petito were missing, why did her boyfriend never report this, waiting weeks for her family to raise the alarm? Third, if Petito died by accident, Laundrie would have a defense and without felonious intent could honorably help return her body. Fourth, the fact Laundrie refuses to comment on Petito's location indicates he doesn't believe she is currently in danger, for that would place him in possible legal peril to simply abandon her. Fifth, that Laundrie invoked his Fifth Amendment rights means he thinks he would be in legal peril answering law enforcement questions regarding her disappearance, implying a crime, in my opinion. Sixth, if Laundrie murdered Petito, the cagiest legal decision to escape punishment would be hiding the body and then to refuse to aid the police in retrieving the corpse. All right, so what do you think about that? Now, where's my logic mistake? And I think it's perfect. It's the only explanation that explains everything else. If she was attacked by the same guy that killed these two lesbians in Moab, wouldn't he say something? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. Plus, she was seen in the Grand Tetons later. Now, she could have fallen and gotten hurt and died, and maybe he got scared and thought he'd be accused. That's probably your best case scenario. If they got into a scuffle, they got into a fight, and she ended up slapping him or hitting him, he might have lost his temper and then attacked back. Now, you don't have the right to kill somebody for slapping you, but it would explain and make it a second-level homicide as opposed to a murder 1 or murder 2. Murder 1 being murder with intention beforehand to kill and a plot laid out. And the second-degree murder is murder with an intention to murder, to kill. And then a homicide is without intention. So you're driving down the road and you're careless. You don't watch what you're doing, or maybe you're drunk and you go off and hit another car and kill somebody. That's a homicide because it wasn't the intention. So my question for you is this: the perfect crime? Will Laundrie's maneuvers create the outline of a perfect crime? That's possible. Of course, in allowing himself to be portrayed as a murderous scoundrel, even if he escapes earthly justice, Brian Laundrie's life will always be framed by the question of what happened to Petito. But consider the fact that some key piece of evidence comes to light. If it does, blood or evidence of a struggle, Brian can be convicted of a murder even without a body. You can be convicted of a murder even if they don't find the body? Yes. So, imagine here would be the easiest. A guy and a woman are fighting on a bridge. The guy gets mad, and then he grabs the woman and takes her and throws her off the bridge. She falls 100 feet, 200 feet. She lands. They never find the body. Could he be convicted of murder? I mean, obviously. So, now there is the corpus delicti rule, which, believe it or not, corpus delicti doesn't mean the body of the deceased. Corpus delicti is a general rule in the law that says you can't just have a conviction based on a confession. There has to be something else that backs up the conviction. And so if you go up and tell a cop, I just drove my car drunk and I got away with it, ha ha ha, can the police take that confession and use that for a DUI? No. I mean, it's not supposed to work that way. So the term corpus delicti is an old term. It's an old Latin term, which means the body of the crime. And according to one legal dictionary, it refers to the idea that the requisite elements of a crime must be proven before an individual can be tried for the crime. Now, for murder under the corpus delicti, quote, a conviction for murder can be based solely upon evidence of a confession without direct proof of death, where no body was found, and other than the confession there was only circumstantial evidence calculated to suggest that the victim was dead and the defendant was the culprit. Now, there have actually been a number of convictions based on the idea of murder without a body. So, but don't forget, in British history, there's a sensational case called the Campden Wonder case. It was based on a missing person and a confession and led to the conviction of 3 for the murder of William Harrison, who then suddenly reappeared a few years later after the execution. And that was in the, I think it's in the 1660s, sometime in the 17th century. And so, despite the rarity of murder charges without a corpse, 86% of defendants charged in no corpse murder cases result in convictions, whereas for all murder cases, the conviction rate is 70%, so it's quite a bit higher. And so what does that mean? It means that they have got to have really good evidence that's circumstantial before they go to court. Now, what would it take to get a murder conviction without a body? Well, most of no-body murder cases that go to trial are based on lengthy investigations and an abundance of strong evidence. And it clusters around the three legs of the stool, according to Tad Biase, a former federal prosecutor and author of the book No Body Homicide Cases, a practical guide to investigating, prosecuting, and winning cases when the victim is missing. And he says, quote, the most important leg of the stool is some type of forensic evidence, which includes DNA, such as blood, hair, fiber, and fingerprints, or technological evidence, including cell tower records, surveillance camera pictures, or some other tech that shows someone was or was not at a certain location. Now, I looked through a number of the famous no-body murder convictions and found a particularly grisly case. I'm sure you'll agree. It's reported in the Hartford Courant, a grisly crime committed by a husband. Richard Crafts bought a large freezer November 17th, 1986. And the next day was the last time anyone saw his wife, Helle Crafts, who's of Swedish descent, or was. Now, on the morning of November 19th, Crafts drove their children from their home in Newton to his sister's house in Westport. On November 20th, he rented a wood chipper and a truck, which he used to haul the wood chipper. Now, the state's evidence said that Crafts killed his wife, froze her body, cut it up with a chainsaw, and used a wood chipper in several areas of Newtown and Southbury, Connecticut, to do away with the body. And then he disposed of the freezer to prevent authorities from finding any evidence. On November 20th, several witnesses saw the truck and the wood chipper in different locations in Newtown and Southbury, including on a steel bridge in Newtown between 3 and 4 a.m. Crafts told someone he was clearing limbs down in a November 18th storm, but they researched this and no tree limbs fell on his property during this storm. State police later searched the area near the steel bridge and found among the piles of wood chips an envelope bearing the victim's name, pieces of bone and tissue, a human fingernail, and crowns to the victim's teeth. Police also recovered underwater near the steel bridge Crafts' chainsaw and a saw blade. They contained blood, tissue, and hair fragments matching those of the victim. All right, so that was probably an easy case and may not at all reflect this one. Now, how would an attorney approach a defense of Laundrie? Well, we see so far Laundrie shows up weeks after this girl disappears, or at least he had to drive across the country, which would take 3 or 4 or 5 days to go from Wyoming to Florida. And so the attorney has told him, don't say anything to anybody and don't help with the search. Now, it's been established already, as you've heard, Laundrie and Petito had a disagreement in Moab, Utah. No charges filed. Now, you can use this type of thing and the fact that the girl had a mental health crisis and was crying uncontrollably to say that she was an unstable person. And when we were in the Grand Tetons, she attacked me, and before I could stop myself, I swung back at her and hit her, and she fell down and hit her head. Or maybe they were hiking up in the hills, and she kicked him, she cursed him, she punched him, and he pushed her back, and she stumbles and falls down the cliff. Falls off some high place. It's plausible. It doesn't mean it happened. Now, could Laundrie win at trial if it goes to trial? Well, as I've already told you, there has to be some kind of physical evidence. So the best thing for the police would be if Petito is caught in a lie or any other evidence comes up. If Laundrie is caught in a lie about Petito and any other evidence comes up, he can be prosecuted for a variety of crimes, and some of the crimes could be, assault, battery, anything that they felt like they could prove. But it seems like it would be just as easy to, if they don't have a body to prove, if they've got blood or anything to prove that she was murdered instead of a lower crime. Now, if he is guilty of murder, he can claim, like I said, that they had a struggle and it was self-defense, or at least he was justified, and so it was a heat-of-the-moment thing. Now, could these possibly create a manslaughter defense or killing without malice? Of course, they could. They don't have any other witnesses. They don't have any other evidence right now. Now, a weird angle was proposed. As I mentioned, this guy that had murdered the 2 lesbians in Utah could have murdered her, but then why wouldn't Laundrie say anything? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not going to come in here, I don't think. So what's the outcome going to be? Was Brian Laundrie wise to leave Petito back west, lawyer up, refuse to cooperate with investigators, and plead the fifth? Well, time will tell. Prosecutors in such a case where only one witness is alive without physical evidence are hard-pressed at trial to gain a conviction. I would say it'd be almost impossible. Now, if Laundrie suddenly decided to cooperate with authorities to help locate the body, he could even end up with a sweet deal, a plea deal, and perhaps just a few years incarceration. But with modern technology, much evidence exists to implicate Laundrie if guilty, and police may be able to trace the van's entire trip, and they can go back and look at the videos from any trips on the highway, on the freeway. They can check places where they stopped. They're going to be able to see where the phone was, probably. I mean, they can probably recreate most of it right now. So what about justice? Undoubtedly, it would suit most observers that if Laundrie were guilty of some level of murder, that he be harshly punished and maybe sent to prison for life. But the recoverable evidence available may not lead to such a conviction. Either way, friends, courtroom rulings often diverge from the feelings and felt need of the average person for real justice regarding a final accounting in such a notorious and tragic case. So it's very sad, and I don't think it's going to have a good outcome. That's just, I think they're probably, if I had to guess, they're probably going to be able to get this guy based on circumstantial evidence and convict him of some level of murder. That's just my impression. And would I want a case like this? Nah, I really wouldn't. I don't want to. I wouldn't want to. I mean, I've certainly helped people who are guilty before, but someone who did such a notorious crime and doesn't appear to be at all sorry, it's kind of disgusting. But now, friends, time for what you love most, weird news. All right, your first story is very reminiscent of the story The Shining, the famous Stephen King novel that had Jack Nicholson starring in it. West Virginia man allegedly chased family with axe. I had to kill them to get the demons out. Johnny Carson York Jr. also allegedly tried to shoot family with bow and arrow at home in Bramwell. And so he was arrested after he allegedly chased his parents while wielding an axe and bow and arrow, telling deputies he had to kill him to get out the demons. And that was last Friday in Bramwell near the Virginia border. And deputies at the Mercer County Sheriff Department were responding to a call. An emergency dispatcher alerted them that the situation escalated and York was now trying to shoot them with a bow and arrow. So when they arrived, they learned that family members that York had been asked to put away some items in a shed before it started to rain. York then allegedly threw a lighter at the family member and chased them both with a maul, which is like a wooden hammer. And so the parents hid and called 911, and then they said that York got out. He got out the axe and he got out the bow and arrow. So he said the authorities asked him why he did it. I had to kill him to get the demons out, and I feel like I have to kill everyone I see, which is probably not a good way to get out on bond, I'm guessing. All right. New York police rescue a man who fell 30 feet into storm drain. And it had to do with the storm that went and passed from down in Louisiana up to New York City. And the man, his forehead was slashed and his leg was injured. He's hospitalized and expected to survive. And the authorities, the emergency workers said as we got down there, he was conscious, he was talking to us, he expressed pain in his ankle. We got him up and everything was fine. And his brother said he had a history of mental illness, speaking of which. And it was It was related to the victim allegedly scaling a ladder of water shaft near a Queens highway on Sunday morning. And the responder said, "You would never find this place. It was in the middle of nowhere, an old water shaft with a stream running down from the bottom of it." So not as a result of the storm, but really crazy, 30 feet down. Now, a few other stories here for you. Okay, so here's a really odd one, and I've got a clip for you here. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'll just end with this clip, and enjoyed hanging out with you. The high spot of my whole day, actually, Kelly O'Connell. Could you give me a subscription on Knockout Podcasts and give me a thumbs up? And have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. And this is really an out-of-the-world love story. Check it out.
There was like all this love and light around him, and it just felt like we almost knew each other from like a different life or a different galaxy. Hi, I'm Abby Bella. I'm an actor and creator, and I'm in love with an alien. So I just, I do a lot of comedy. I do some skits on Instagram. I was making a lot of jokes about aliens, and I started saying that it would be so fun if you could date aliens because Tinder is so terrible. And I feel like I connected telepathically with the aliens because they heard me kind of say it over and over again, and I kept on like joking about it and like leaving my window open at night, and it was just like a weird, like little quirky thing that I did, and I didn't realize that it would like get the aliens attracted to me, but they connected to me telepathically. And just under 2 weeks ago, I saw the UFO outside of my room, outside of my window, and I had an encounter, and that's how I met them. It was one alien, the alien that I'm dating, and his crew on their UFO. I realized that he was the one, just telepathically as well. Like I could feel it. I could feel when I first encountered him, there was like all this love and light around him, and it just felt like we almost knew each other from like a different life or a different galaxy. I can't explain it, but we had this instant connection, and it just felt right. The thing that my alien communicated to me that is the most important is that they're already here, but they come in peace, but we can't see them. And the future for us, for them, and for us is going to be interspecies dating. But it's still taboo, and it's still taboo for them, because to them we're aliens, so he was kind of doing something that would have been frowned upon as well. But the future is for us to date each other and create a new civilization. I think people are negative about me dating an alien, and there's like a lot of hate around it because it's new and unexplored, and I think there's just a fear around it, and it's taboo. But, like back in the day, you couldn't date someone from a different class to yourself. So I think, those norms do change, and love has no borders and no bounds. So I'm hopeful. The future for me and my alien partner, I don't know what's going to happen because, to be honest, I know that our planet is very violent and we keep on waging wars against each other. So I don't know what the reaction would be like for my generation for alien dating, but definitely the next generation will accept it. So we'll probably have to either keep it like, I guess, a long distance relationship, or eventually I would have to go visit them in their galaxy.